The mighty ones from the Zhong clan stood frozen, as they saw more and more mighty ones from the other side showing up. They felt a massive pressure on their chests. The mighty ones from the Zhong clan stood frozen, as they saw more and more mighty ones from the other side showing up. They felt a massive pressure on their chests. They were unable to fathom what was going on. What the hell was this? Why were so many mighty ones showing up all of a sudden? There were even several holiness of nirvanas, standing right behind Futian. All of them were addressing him as city lord, and acting very respectful toward him, as if he were their leader or something. All who had showed up seemed to know him as well. With such a lineup, and Qi Xiangang added to the mix, the few holiness of nirvanas in the Zhong clan were apparently no match at all. At that moment, another group of people emerged, Prince Qishang and Yu Shifei of the Crimson Dragon realm. When the teleportation had gone wrong and disintegrated, they had held each other's hands, and because of that, they had remained together, showing up at the same place. They had met up with the others at the event later, and they had found more of their own. They were trying to see if they were able to find anyone from the Crimson Dragon realm among the vast crowd that day. It was apparent that everyone had shared the same thoughts and gathered at the event. Futian was even bold enough to cause a scene at the event. I'd heard of the exploits of the Wuxia clan and the Zhong clan throughout the days I spent in the Imperial City. I didn't expect to find both clans more forceful than I could have imagined. These two clans really are capable of throwing their weight around in Emperor Qi's territory. Qishang smiled and continued, His Majesty Emperor Qi should really keep his people in check. Qiyu felt it rather out of place for so many mighty ones to show up one after another. All of them had exceptional bearing, and many among them felt extraordinary, especially several of the younger ones. While their training had apparently not been the strongest, their bearings were nonetheless superb. So much so that it seemed that the geniuses in Emperor Qi's territory appeared to be beneath their notice. While Emperor Qi's territory was indeed said to be a place ruled by a Renhuang, it was but one of the places ruled by a Renhuang throughout the entire Heavenly Mandate realm. There were many other stronger places, and because of that, they were unable to keep the best of the best around. If talents were to be compared, the geniuses who stood at the very pinnacle would not have been inferior to those from Emperor Qi's territory. They would have only been stronger. There were many among those who'd emerged who were descendants of Renhuang themselves. That day was the day on which the palace examination of Emperor Qi's territory was held, but it seemed that things had changed altogether. A storm had arisen all because of Yin Qianyue. To put it precisely, it was that silver-haired young man who'd caused such a scene. Just who the hell was that young man? Zhong Li's expression had turned completely glum. The Zhong clan had intended to forcibly overpower Qi Xiangang and those with him, sweeping the matter under the rug. They would have apologized to Emperor Qi at a later date. It would have been better to be caught in a disadvantage at such a place. However, this turn of events had rendered them utterly helpless. The parties were no longer in the same weight class to begin with. Even if the Wuxia clan were to be added the conflict, siding with the Zhong clan, they would still have lost. Now only the Zhong clan was caught in such a predicament. Those from the Wuxia clan sported expressions that were equally as interesting. The mighty ones from the Celestial Swordly clan and the Yin clan of Luo City were all stunned by the turn of events before them. Telling me to keep my people in check. You people really are bold indeed. A voice was heard from afar, and everyone saw a holy, dazzling beam of light descending from the royal palace. A figure in royal garb walked in front of them, heading towards the crowd. His appearance caused countless people throughout the vast place to bow solemnly and say, "Greetings, Your Majesty." Many mighty ones from the Wuxia clan, the Zhong clan, and the others bowed one after another as well. Emperor Qi came before them with a single step. Qi rose as well, and called out to the person right before him, "Father." Emperor Qi nodded slightly to the crowd, waving his hand to tell everyone to be at ease. His eyes then turned towards Futian, Qishang, and the others. "Greetings, Your Majesty. I'm Qishang from the Crimson Dragon realm," Qishang said and bowed. "Greetings, Your Majesty. I'm Futian." Futian bowed as well. While those people had been there causing a ruckus, they were nonetheless still very polite, seeing a true Renhuang. showing appropriate manners and respect. Emperor Qi smiled and said, "You sure are bold. I assume you're a member of the royal family in the Crimson Dragon clan then? Would you mind doing the introductions, Sir Qi?" Qi Xiangang nodded and looked at Qi Shang, saying, "This is His Highness, Prince Qi Shang of the Royal Palace of Crimson Dragon Realm in the Crimson Dragon region. The one by his side is his wife. The others are all from the Crimson Dragon region. Yi Futian is my student, and he hails from Emperor Xia's realm in Crimson Dragon region. All of them are here in the Heavenly Mandate realm on a pilgrimage. The ancient road of space that we were on disintegrated. We were scattered all over the place, and we all gathered here today. So that is to say that there are probably several children of Ren Huang in the Crimson Dragon realm then?" Emperor Qi asked and smiled, turning his eyes to several of them. He was able to feel something special from those few. Indeed, Qi Xiangang nodded, and crowd was rattled. Several children of Ren Huang? No one had expected the lineup that had showed up out of nowhere to be so terrifying. And it looked rather ridiculous. The Zhuoqiu clan and the Zhong clan had no doubt been very much of a big deal in Emperor Qi's territory. But they were rather tiny when compared to the ones on the other side. It was no surprise that Yi Futian showed neither fear nor respect for them, or that he had even gone on to make sarcastic jabs at them. They were curious what kind of a character Yi Futian had been in the Crimson Dragon region. They were curious about his status. "Seems like you have your own motives for coming to the royal palace then, Sir Yi. You people have taken the venue where the palace examination was to be held to be your meeting place, I see." Emperor Qi continued, looking at them. "I beg your forgiveness, Your Majesty," Qi Xiangang said and bowed slightly. "You've made it a point not to stay here for long, so what can I fault you for? However, that student of yours really is a cocky one, stirring up all that trouble in the palace examination." Emperor Qi turned his attention to Yi Futian and asked, "Someone who was able to overpower top-notch geniuses from Emperor Qi's territory. What is the status of the student of yours, Sir Qi?" "No status worth mentioning. He is but a cultivator from Emperor Xia's realm, who joined the Crimson Dragon realm," Qi Xiangang answered. "You refuse to tell me the truth then?" Emperor Qi looked at him, and the few holiness of nirvanas around him. All of them had emerged only because of him, just as a show of force. Qi Xiangang had actually said that someone like that was of no status worth mentioning. "If you really would like to know of his status, Your Majesty, then I'd say that Yi Futian is someone who loved stirring up trouble back in the Crimson Dragon realm. He is a city lord who has a great many mighty ones serving him." Qi Shang smiled and continued, "By the way, Yi Futian is also the #1 cultivator in his generation in the Crimson Dragon region. A genius who stands at the very pinnacle, if you would. I'm afraid none in the palace examination would be able to compare to him, let alone Zhong Qiu of the Zhong clan. #1 cultivator." Qi Shang spoke so highly of Yi Futian that hardly any appraisal could have surpassed what he'd said. That #1 apparently took the prince into consideration, so it was saying that the prince was inferior to Yi Futian. Furthermore, he had said Crimson Dragon region, instead of Crimson Dragon realm. Emperor Qi knew, naturally, that there were a great many top-notch geniuses gathered from all over the Crimson Dragon region in that realm. Yet Qi Shang still claimed that Yi Futian was the #1 young cultivator in the Crimson Dragon region. That appraisal alone spoke volumes about how tremendously powerful Yi Futian was. It was no surprise that Zhong Qiu had not been able to withstand even a single hit. He really was unfortunate for having met someone like that. The corner of Zhuoqiu Yan's mouth twitched. He had been rather dismissive of Yi Futian, until the other man had actually taken down Zhong Qiu with a single hit. Only then had Zhuoqiu Yan felt truly shaken. "Sir Yi, #1 in Crimson Dragon region." Yun Qinyue's expression turned rather dazed, wondering if this was truly the soft-spoken and polite Sir Yi that she knew. All of the mighty ones from the Crimson Dragon region, even the likes of princes, were proud of him. That being said, Sir Yi's talents would have definitely overpowered many geniuses throughout the Crimson Dragon region then. So that is how it is. Emperor Qi smiled and said, "In that case, the palace examination today has turned out rather meaningful, for we are able to see how different those from this territory are compared to the #1 in the Crimson Dragon region. You all should be more diligent in your training from here on out, in order to prevent what happened today from happening again. Your emperor is losing face today. We will definitely do our best to scout geniuses within the territory, Your Majesty. The leader of the Zhuoqiu clan said to Emperor Qi and bowed. While what Qi Shang said sounded rather unpleasant to the ear, it would seem that he has a point. I really do need to keep my people in check, Emperor Qi said. The states of mind of the mighty ones from both the Zhuoqiu clan and the Zhong clan continued to plunge after they heard that. We're responsible for what happened today. Please see to it that we're punished, Your Majesty, the leader of the Zhuoqiu clan said, asking to be punished voluntarily. Qi Yu, have someone investigate the Zhuoqiu clan's abuse of power by trading candidate slots for the palace examination, and do everything in your power to cooperate. Zhuoqiu, you have been following me for many years, and it is impossible for you not to do anything wrong at all. I simply hope that you know where your responsibilities lie. Emperor Qi continued. As for the Zhong clan, there will no longer be any need for them to participate in anything related to the territory. Qi Yu, look into the training methods of the Zhong clan, and see if they have been forcing or threatening others in anything. Yes, father. Qi Yu rose and nodded. Zhong Li's expression became as pale as paper. The mighty ones of the Zhong clan were all shuddering slightly. That was the end of them. The emperor had stripped the Zhong clan of all their power right there and then. Furthermore, there was also to be an investigation into their clan, and all of them knew what they had done so far. That large clan had had many shady dealings in the past. If any of that were to be brought to light, the emperor would surely not let them off easy. The emperor had truly taken advantage of the commotion to straighten his people out. Finally, I shall see to it that the palace examination is organized again at a later date, and the selection shall be done fairly, Emperor Qi said to the crowd. All hail our wise emperor. One person after another bowed. Hope lit up in the hearts of many. Yin Tang and Yin and I both smiled. It seemed that Qianyue would turn out all right after all. The Zhong clan would face extremely severe punishments. Yun Qianyue had already walked back to Yi Futian on the platform. She looked at Yi Futian with teary eyes, but there was a smile on her face as well. She asked, Are you really willing to take me as your student, sir? I am indeed. Yi Futian smiled and said, But while I've agreed to take you as my student, you'll still be relying on yourself to further your training, for I won't be able to take you with me. Indeed. Yin Qianyue nodded. I understand. She did not dare ask for more. Let her stay in the royal palace and train under me then, Emperor Qi said. Yi Futian and Yin Qianyue were both dumbfounded as they looked at Emperor Qi. The Zhong clan served me, and I was at fault in this as well. Just take it as compensation, Emperor Qi said. You indeed are generous and fair, Your Majesty. Yi Futian bowed and continued. Thank you very much, Your Majesty. Yin Qianyue smiled as well. Her eyes seemed to become even wetter as she smiled. Her family had thrown her away and sent her off to become a servant girl in order for Yin Mo to get a chance at the palace examination. Right then, however, she had acquired the right to train by Emperor Qi's side. It all just seemed so ironic. The Yun clan looked upon the scene with ashen faces. No one could have comprehended what they felt. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Old Man Yun looked at the platform and saw Emperor Qi declaring that he would allow Yin Qianyue to train under him. That promise held great significance, more so than passing the palace examination and being allowed to train under the emperor. Old Man Yun looked at the platform and saw Emperor Qi declaring that he would allow Yin Qianyue to train under him. That promise held great significance, more so than passing the palace examination and being allowed to train under the emperor. What happened on that day caused Yin Qianyue's status to skyrocket, enabling her to get close to the royal family. This was something that the Yun clan had wanted to do all this time, as they'd wanted to send younger members of their clan to train under the emperor. That wish had finally come true, yet it was not something that had happened because of their efforts. On the contrary, they had cast her out cruelly, sending her away as a sacrifice, so that they would have a shot at achieving that. Yin Qianyue would probably hate her family's guts. They took a look at Yin Mo, who had been thoroughly rid of his training. Revenge was out of the question without a doubt. If Yi Futian were to truly sit down and settle the matter with them, they probably would not have been able to emerge unscathed. That lineup had overpowered even the Wuxia clan and the Zhong clan, making even the emperor himself appear. All of that showed how absolutely terrifying those people were. Their backing was so strong that even Emperor Qi, a lord of a territory in Heavenly Mandate Realm, had to show respect. Yin Chang's face was ashen, and he despaired, wondering how things had turned out this way. Two figures walked in his direction, Yun Teng and Yun and I. Yun Teng still looked rather angry, judging from how they looked at the rest of the Yun clan. He said coldly, Qianyue's father sacrificed himself for the clan, and now you people have sent Qianyue to the Zhong clan, to be a servant girl for the sake of the clan. It occurs to me all of a sudden that we've been getting close to the Zhong clan, wanting to establish a connection between us and them. The clan might have been planning for this for a long time, waiting for the pieces to fall in the palace examination. Yin Ting looked rather sarcastic as he continued. It is indeed ironic. The one who was cast away by the clan and saved by an outsider. If it had not been for Yi Futian, I'm sure you all would have been smiling from ear to ear instead, feeling not the slightest bit of remorse or sorrow, but only joy from seeing your goals accomplished. From this day forth, my family shall sever all ties with the Yun clan of Luo City. I wish the clan great success and prosperity. Both Yun Teng and Yin and I turned around and left right away, not at all reluctant. Yin and I would especially hate them for what they had done. Her husband had died for the clan, and her daughter had changed her surname, and all of that had only resulted in her being cast away by the clan as a sacrifice. It was pathetic indeed. It was fortunate that they had Sir Yi on their side. She looked up at the silver-haired man up on the platform. Her eyes were filled only with gratitude. She too was able to figure out that the clan had been planning this for a very long time. None of that had anything to do with Yi Futian being threatened by the Celestial Swordly clan. That incident was but a convenient excuse. Even without Li Rushuang in the picture, the clan would have sent Qianyue away all the same, just so that Yin Mo was able to have a bright future. At yet another corner, the people of the Celestial Swordly clan were feeling just as frustrated. Emperor Qi had ordered for the Wuxia clan to be subjected to investigations. The alliance was rendered null without a doubt. Both clans would want to have nothing to do with each other at that point. It was clear that they would have intended to sever all connections with each other, just to avoid being punished by the emperor for having conspired with one another. Other than that, Yi Futian had once reminded them. Li Rushuang of the Celestial Swordly clan had wanted to kill him once, going all the way to the Yun clan to take him away, and telling the Yun clan to know their place. Li Rushuang was the most extraordinary figure in their clan from that generation, and everyone wondered how the rest of her clan would deal with her. If they were to simply ignore Yi Futian, that lineup of his was more than enough to take them out as easy as pinching an ant to death. Furthermore, no one would have anything to say about it. One wrong step, and it would be the end of them. Li Rushuang walked back to her clan, and saw that all eyes in her clan were on her. She was perceptive enough to tell that something was out of place. Those eyes did not look like they'd used to. She frowned hard, and her mind cleared in an instant. She knew that those looks they were giving her had something to do with Yi Futian. She had once been the pride of her clan, yet at that moment, her clan was probably afraid of being dragged into her mess, and they were thinking of what to do with her. She felt a bone-chilling cold in her mind. Making minor sacrifices to safeguard major interests? She had been reduced to a minor sacrifice to her clan. She stopped and looked at all those faces before her, feeling as if they were those of strangers. What happened with the Ranhuang mural at the ridge was my own doing, and I shall shoulder the responsibility all on my own. From this day forth, I, Li Rushuang, will no longer be a member of the Celestial Swordly clan. Everything I have done will have had nothing to do with the Celestial Swordly clan, Li Rushuang said, making a snap decision right then and there. It would have been very dangerous for her to return to her clan, as it was extremely possible for her clan to make her a scapegoat in order to keep their clan out of that mess. As such, she made the decision to sever her connection with her clan instead. She turned around after she finished saying all of that, and began walking, intending to leave right away on her own. Thinking of just leaving like that, a cold voice was heard. Yi Futian turned to look at Li Rushuang. He'd heard that Li Rushuang was a decisive person, capable of making decisions quickly and follow through with them. She was also brutal, and had shown no mercy when she intended to kill him back then. She'd gone to the Yun clan just to take him away, and then he'd attempted to set the Yun clan up, just to offend the Wuxia clan. All of her actions showed that she was merciless with her dealings. At present, she had severed ties with her clan, intending to escape in one piece. Li Rushuang stopped and turned around to look at Yi Futian, saying, "It was indeed you who destroyed the Runhuang mural, and it was completely normal that I put the blame on you in my anger. I'm willing to cut my hair as a token of apology." She then put her hand behind her head and held her hair. A sword materialized in her other hand, and she cut off her long hair right away. Her jet-black hair billowed in the air. After Li Rushuang cut her hair, her then shoulder-length hair was left hanging loose, giving her the frail grace of a woman, and making her look pitiful and downtrodden, preventing others from making a move on her. However, Yi Futian's expression remained unchanged. One's state of mind was unusually steely when they had trained all the way to sainthood. Every single action a saint took would have come from their own will, and none would have thought that they had been wrong in doing anything. That action of cutting her hair off was but a ploy to buy time. Her pitiful appearance was only a tool to allow her to live. Li Rushuang was indeed brutal. However, Yi Futian's expression remained as it had always been, without a single hint of moving in any way. It was as if he were saying, "You think doing this is going to appeal to my kindness?" Li Rushuang had not looked like that at all when she'd ordered him killed. "Is that mural something that belonged to you in the first place, Li Rushuang?" Yi Futian asked. She was startled and speechless. "That thing belonged to no one, and yet you sound so matter-of-fact nonetheless. Completely normal, huh?" Yi Futian jabbed at her sarcastically and continued, "I'm now offering you a chance. If you can take one hit from my sword and live, I'll let you leave." One hit from his sword. Li Rushuang's expression became pointed. As a mighty one from the celestial Swordly clan, she was trained in the way of the sword, and yet, Yi Futian was getting ready to deal with her using swords. "So be it." Li Rushuang nodded. Sword aura whipped about, and gathered behind her as soon as she finished talking. Her life spirit appeared, and the sword will all around was solidified into a terrifying screen of swords, pulsing with the frightening light of the sword as they zipped about. Those were not swords meant for defense. They were swords meant for killing. As a swordswoman, she knew well that the greatest defense available to wielders of swords was none other than offense. Her swords burst in an instant without waiting for Yi Futian to do anything. She charged straight at Yi Futian in a decisive manner. Yi Futian, as only able to use one move with the swords, many around them praised her deep down, seeing how she moved. Regardless of her character, the fact that she was extremely talented had not changed at all. She was indeed someone born to be a cultivator. Yi Futian remained unfazed as he watched Li Rushuang make her move. He took one step forward, and swords of Cassiopeia were conjured around him, zipping through the air. They burst through Li Rushuang's river of swords one after another, moving forward in a special pattern, taking formations and coming at her like an autumn gale. The swords of Cassiopeia reflected in Li Rushuang's eyes continued to grow in size. She was thoroughly frightened and backed away in a hurry. However, the swords of Cassiopeia were unnervingly fast, and they arrived before her in an instant, piercing the aura of swords all around her as they burst through her body. Her body shuddered unceasingly within an instant. Her blood stained her clothes, and she looked pathetic. The aura all over her was dispelled, and she grew increasingly weak. Wrinkles began to appear on her face. She lost her youthful appearance altogether, as if she had gotten 10 years older within an instant. The life force within her body had all been destroyed by the sword wills. She looked completely ashen, as she reached out to sense the remaining aura in her body. She was not even able to stand still by then. The sword wills were dispelled, and Yi Futian continued to eye Li Rushuang. There was hardly any pity in his eyes. Li Rushuang looked up at him with a vicious look on her face. She stood and hobbled away without saying anything. Despite being severely injured, her training disposed of, she still had hope that she would be able to train again. Futian turned around, not looking at her anymore. How many abilities are you versed in, sir? Yun Xianyue, who was by his side, asked. She had only been asking Futian to guide her in the ways of thunder. Yet it was the way of entropy, and the halberd of time and space that Futian had defeated Zhong Qiu with. At that moment, he'd showed his abilities with the sword as well. Futian did not correct the way she addressed him, thinking that she had probably gotten used to it. I'm versed in quite a few powers, Futian said and smiled. He then looked at Emperor Qi, bowing and saying, I'm truly sorry for getting you involved in what happened today, Your Majesty, and I'd like to beg your forgiveness. You people have indeed caused me, an emperor, to lose a lot of face. But then again, it worked well to stimulate them for a bit. Emperor Qi continued, since you have come all the way from the Crimson Dragon realm, and something wrong happened with the Grand Matrix of Space, I'm sure that there are others of yours who are still out there. How about you train in the royal palace for a bit? What just happened here will have spread like wildfire soon enough. Other than that, I shall have my people to hasten the spread of the news. Doing so will allow those friends of yours who did not show today to find this place before long. It is indeed best that we have your help, Your Majesty, Futian said. They were in Emperor Qi's territory, and if the emperor was willing to help, those who hadn't showed that day would come soon enough. I'm not doing this for free. Please take your time to spar with the cultivators in the royal palace while you are training here. Have them experience what the strongest genius from the lower worlds is like, just to prevent them from developing a holier-than-thou attitude and thinking themselves to be peerless. Emperor Qi smiled as he elaborated. Many studied under him, and there were indeed some who possessed extreme talents among them, whom he'd taken in as personal students. Other than that, the emperor had descendants of his own after all. It was great that Futian and the others around him were the strongest of geniuses to be found in the Crimson Dragon realm, allowing them to spar with those of Emperor Qi at a similar age. Such training would allow them to have a better idea of who was stronger, and that would benefit their training further. All right, Futian nodded. He saw no reason to refuse such a minor request. Let's go, Emperor Qi said, and one figure after another stepped out. The crowd all over the vast place felt like they had not gotten enough. While the palace examination was interrupted, everything that had happened after the examination was even more extraordinary. They knew that from then on out, both the Wuxia clan and the Zhong clan, which had been standing on the pinnacle in Emperor Qi's territory, would fall into decline sooner or later, and the Zhong clan would suffer even more. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. The mountain range in Emperor Qi's territory was sparsely inhabited. Cultivators rarely came here, and only recluses or silent seekers would cultivate in the mountains. The mountain range in Emperor Qi's territory was sparsely inhabited. Cultivators rarely came here, and only recluses or silent seekers would cultivate in the mountains. At this moment, many people got down from the top of one mountain. Their robes were blowing in the wind. Divine might was being released from their body, extremely intimidating. They kept glancing around, forceful minds rushing out from their heads and enveloping the endless space. They seem to be looking for something. He is hurt, he can't escape too far. Maybe he is still in the mountain range. You go find him separately, said the leader of the group. People nodded and soon flashed toward different locations. They released their life forces without disguise at the same time. So even though they were far away, they could still perceive the life forces from others and support each other instantly. The leader looked quite young. He looked cold and had an intimidating life force. Many warriors were searching in the mountains, one of whom was an old warrior in a black robe. His body flashed in the air, fast like lightning. When he came to a land of valley, he seemed to perceive a faint wisp of life force. He immediately looked up in alert and darted toward that direction. There was a river in the deep of the valley. The old warrior in the black robe arrived on the bank above the river. He restrained the life force from his body and looked down. And then he saw a figure sitting there with his back to him. The life force was suspended around his body. It seemed he was healing himself. His clothes were still tinged with bloodstains. The old man resumed his steps. His stare was cold, fixed on the figure in front of him. That man in white seemed to have noticed. He slowly turned around and stared at him coldly. Boom! The old man's life force exploded to the full and surged out. The divine might arrived. He raised one palm and thrust it out. It turned into a golden wheel and smashed the space. The man in white also raised his hand and thrust forward. Suddenly, 9 palm prints showed up in the sky and turned into one. The great law resonated and trembled the void sky. His palm print collided with the golden wheel print and made a booming sound. Why don't you surrender now? The old man shouted. His palm print swept forward and crushed the young man's palm print. The young man let out a low humph, but his palm print was still firm. Cold killing thought flashed across his eyes. Suddenly, the old warrior seemed to perceive something, and his face turned pale. His mind glanced behind, and when he tried to retrieve the palm print, he found that the person's palm was sticking tight onto his palm. He hastily thrust out the left hand, but at that moment, a white phantom flashed in front of him and disappeared. PKKKHD. After a clear penetrating sound, blood oozed from the old warrior's neck. His head fell, and the white phantom merged into the figure in white and became a part of it. He coughed. A dribble of blood fell from his mouth. He took an emotionless glance into the distance and turned around, flashing away. His life force was concealed, and his speed was super fast. Until now, he still had no idea why the person who came to the heavenly mandate realm with him suddenly sent people to capture him. He didn't offend him, and since he just came here, he didn't have enemies. What on earth was it? Even though he didn't know the answer, he could do nothing but escape. First, escape from this mountain range, and then disguise himself, hide in the crowds until they couldn't find him. It was not long after he escaped that a group of warriors came. The leader arrived too. He saw the old warrior's corpse on the ground, of which the head had fallen to one side. He had been decapitated. The leader's face looked extremely sullen. They had wasted a few Saint Plain warriors, but they had not caught him yet. Go! He gave the order and flashed into the air, chasing after the residue of the man's life force left between the sky and earth. To be more exact, the imperial palace of Emperor Qi's territory should be called a city within a city. The imperial palace was a vast district covering hundreds of acres. There were countless lofty palaces in this area and abundant cultivation resources. Besides, the imperial palace was enveloped by one giant matrix, full of the thick nimbus of the universe. Even the will of the law was everywhere, permeating the whole space. It was a perfect land for cultivation, just like the earthly paradise described in legends. But it was not beyond Yi Futian's expectation. A Renhuang's dwelling place was often like this. He used to cultivate in the regional king's palace. In the regional king's palace, wills of flame were also everywhere, extremely thick in the air. It was also one of the reasons warriors of Emperor Qi's territory all wanted to attend the palace examination and cultivate under Emperor Qi's throne. They would not only learn Emperor Qi's teachings and cultivate in this zone, but also get bigger opportunities if they performed well enough and had enough talent. Many eminent figures had come from this imperial palace. And at this moment, in the imperial palace, Yi Futian and other warriors were staying in a provisional palace. During these days, from time to time, some people came here to visit and practice cultivation skills. They were all full of pride when they just came here. But they all looked quite depressed and enervated when they left, their heads lowered. Soon, warriors stopped visiting this provisional palace. The people here were too tough to mess up with. Yi Futian's companions from the Crimson Dragon realm gradually all arrived. Since Emperor Qi helped release information in person, and also because what happened in palace examination had shocked the whole territory, everyone who got a clue immediately rushed to the imperial palace and found the people they were looking for. The warriors who came from Thousand Leaves City with Yi Futian were almost all here. Xia Qingyuan arrived too. In fact, she had been in the imperial city on the day of the palace examination. Still no news. Yi Futian asked the sword saint of Cottage Villa. He went outside to seek information, and had just come back. The Sword Saint of Cottage Villa shook his head and said, "Not yet. Donglu is always careful when doing things. If he had heard about the battle, he must have attempted to come here. Unless something stopped him." Now, the third brother Gu Donglu was the only person who had not arrived yet. Other people were all here. The third brother's real strength was not weak. He should be able to protect himself if nothing serious happened. But Yi Futian was still worried about him, since they were in the heavenly mandate realm, where strong warriors were everywhere. If he had met a person like Li Rushuang, it would mean big trouble. Was it possible that he was sent to other territories by the collapsed spatial road? Asked Yi Futian in a low voice. Maybe, said the Sword Saint nodding. A cultivator should be fine being alone outside. But he was still a little worried about Gu Donglu, who didn't come here to meet them. At that moment, someone walked to them. Mr. Yi. That person saluted him from a distance. Yi Futian walked forward. He knew the person belonged to the Imperial Palace. His Majesty has prepared a banquet, and invites you and other heroes to come, he said. Yi Futian listened and asked, "What time?" "You can depart now if you are free," he continued. "All right," said Yi Futian nodding. He needed to show respect for Emperor Qi. This time, Emperor Qi penalized the Zhuoqiu clan and the Zhong clan. The power of both clans had been weakened, especially the Zhong clan, which had left the center of politics. But of course, Yi Futian would not think it was all for him. Maybe these two clans had fallen out of Emperor Qi's favor for long, but they worked for him and did things in his name, just like in the palace examination. So, Emperor Qi just took the chance to give them an alert and innervate their power and voices. Yi Futian and others departed, and soon came to the Emperor Qi's dwelling Renhuang Palace. The banquet was ready. Many warriors sat on both sides of the banquet. People of the Crimson Dragon realm had all arrived. They scattered and sat in different seats. Yi Futian, what is your plan? Qi Shang asked Yi Futian. He was sitting with Yu Shifei, opposite Yi Futian. I don't have a specific plan, but I want to figure out what powers of the heavenly mandate realm were like first, said Yi Futian in a low voice. Said Qi Shang nodding. This time, we just came here for cultivation and training, so we don't have a strong intention. We are ready to leave here after today, and go to different locations for cultivation. Okay, said Yi Futian. He knew it was not convenient for so many people to cultivate together. Although many people came from the Crimson Dragon realm, they belonged to different powers, and they didn't have to stay together. When you come back to Crimson Dragon realm, I hope to see you become the top warrior below Renhuang in Crimson Dragon realm, said Qi Shang laughing. Yi Futian didn't say anything. Perhaps he needed a lot more time to reach that level. He didn't know if his master Qi Xiangang had ability like that. When they headed toward the banquet, in the Imperial City district of Emperor Qi's territory, a figure in white swiftly flashed toward the Imperial Palace. However, he was stopped outside the palace. The man in white was Gu Donglu. The life force suspended around his body, and his white clothes were stained by blood. There seemed to be a gust of appalling life force rushing toward him. This is the Imperial Palace. You are not allowed to enter. A guard outside the Imperial Palace said to Gu Donglu with a long spear in hand. I came from the Crimson Dragon realm. I am here to find people, said Gu Donglu. He got the news on his way and ran here. The guards took a look at each other and slightly nodded. They left some space for him. One of them turned around and said, "Follow me." And then, Gu Donglu followed him to the Imperial Palace territory. Just after they stepped inside, the group of people following him arrived. The ones at the front line paused their steps, frowning. This district belonged to Emperor Qi's territory. It was Emperor Qi's Imperial Palace. Many Renhuang's Imperial Palaces in the Heavenly Mandate realm were independently established spaces, prohibiting unknown visitors from trespassing. A figure arrived from the void sky. The life force being emitted from the person's body was very appalling. His eyes revealed a horrifying gleam. His stare was fixed on Emperor Qi's territory ahead of him. Other people turned their heads and looked at him. He took a stride forward and kept moving. Not to mention the Imperial Palace of Emperor Qi's territory. They were going to catch him anyway. Even if he ran right in front of Emperor Qi. Who knew if the celestial gate of vast heaven knew his existence? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. The banquet was going on in Emperor Qi's palace. The banquet was going on in Emperor Qi's palace. Yi Futian and others had arrived. Emperor Qi came in person too. Is it true that recently some royal warriors came to visit Yi Futian's provisional palace, and were all taken away on a stretcher? Emperor Qi looked at the warriors and asked. Many people lowered their heads and looked quite embarrassed. Those proud, big figures went to challenge Yi Futian, and ended up being defeated. Mr. Yi is the strongest warrior of Crimson Dragon Realm in this generation. It is normal that Emperor Qi's territory has no one to contend with him. Qi Yu was standing nearby and said. Emperor Qi nodded and said, realizing your own shortcomings is the first step for a more powerful cultivation path. From now on, don't be someone who sits in a well and thinks they know the world. And soon you can depart with Qi Yu. Ah, Your Majesty, people all answered nodding. They all knew what Emperor Qi meant. Soon, a big event would happen in Heavenly Mandate Realm. This event would be of vital importance for cultivators in this district, especially for those who studied thunder laws. That would be a rare chance for them. Even though they might not grasp the chance, they should still go to the event. Yi Futian, I know the Yun clan of Luo City also cultivates in thunder skills. Since Qianyue is your disciple, you must be good at the law of thunders as well, right? Emperor Qi asked Yi Futian. I can't say I am good at it, only the basics. Yi Futian replied subserviently. You are being modest. I can tell your thunder skills are good too, replied Emperor Qi. Soon there will be a chance of inheritance. I will send many people there. Would you like to go with them? It was out of Yi Futian's expectation. Emperor Qi, as a Run Huang, seemed to pay much attention to this. Or did Emperor Qi draw Yi Futian to his side also because of this thing? To let him accompany Qi Yu? May I know where to go? Asked Yi Futian. Have you heard about this after you came to the Heavenly Mandate Palace? Asked Emperor Qi. All the thunder skills in the world originated from the Heavenly Palace. Yes, said Yi Futian nodding. He indeed heard about it from Yun Nin, when he was in the Yun clan of Luo City. All the thunder skills in the world originated from the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace here referred to the top power in the Heavenly Mandate Palace, Violet Heavenly Palace. Was the thing related to the Violet Heavenly Palace? The place you are going to is one of the orthodox holy places of the Violet Heavenly Palace, and contained one of the 8 thunder law inheritances of the Violet Heavenly Palace, said Emperor Qi slowly. He looked solemn, as if lost in thought of the past, and then said, the Violet Heavenly Palace inherited from heaven and owned the heavenly law, divine thunder of purple heaven. There are 72 layers in the divine thunder of purple heaven, 8 sects, and numerous branches in the world, and this vast district contained one of the 8 orthodoxies of the Violet Heaven Palace. The place you will be going is related to it. Of course, nobody is forced to go. It is voluntary. Yi Futian slightly nodded. Emperor Qi just provided a simple introduction and didn't give any details. But if he decided to go, he would get to know more. Of course, Yi Futian wanted to go. All thunder skills of the world originated from the Heavenly Palace. It was one of the 8 orthodoxies of the Purple Heavenly Palace. He came to the Heavenly Mandate Realm in order to reach higher levels and search for an answer. If he had the chance to approach the Violet Heavenly Palace, it would be a very good choice. We don't cultivate in thunder laws, we just hang around. You don't have to join in the fun, said Qi Shang. He was not the only one. Many people didn't cultivate in thunder laws either. He had told Yi Futian he might part with him and go somewhere else. All right then, Emperor Qi said, nodding. Suddenly, Emperor Qi lifted his eyebrows. He raised his head and looked up into the distance, as if having perceived something. His forceful mind stormed out and enveloped the boundless space. And soon he saw a place there. On the outskirt of the imperial city, a group of people surrounded a young man in white. The leader of the group had an unusual temperament. It was as if he was aloof from the world. He stared at the man in white emotionlessly. The person in white was Gu Donglu. He had been fleeing on his way, and had just come here after hearing about the thing that happened in the city. However, he was still blocked the moment he entered the city. The young leader in the group waved his hand and immediately, these people flashed and encircled Gu Donglu. Keep him alive, the young leader ordered mercilessly. Appalling life force was released from his body. From Gu Donglu's body, his life force also burst out violently. The 9 characters of spiritual power appeared and rotated around his body. A celestial phantom appeared, and a huge amount of wills gushed out. Seeing the scene, the young leader turned more concerned and yelled out, "Take him right away." But at this moment, a suffocating pressure came down from the sky dome and enveloped the boundless space. It was the might of a Renhuang. A giant face showed up in the void sky. It was formed by wills. It was Emperor Qi's face. He paused for a second when seeing the ancient characters around Gu Donglu and the celestial phantom, and soon looked toward the group of people and asked, "Didn't you know you are not allowed to break into the palace in my territory?" The young man who took the lead slightly bowed to Emperor Qi and said, "Our apologies to bother you, Your Majesty. We will leave immediately after taking him away." And then he took out a token to show him. There were 2 characters on it, Wu Tu, Earth the 5th Essential. The token of Wu Tu? Above the sky dome, Emperor Qi slightly frowned at the scene. Gu Donglu raised his head and looked toward Emperor Qi. Since he was here, Emperor Qi should have known the reason. Yi Futian came here and stirred up the whole realm, but was still looking for him. Emperor Qi might have made his guess. However, at this moment, Emperor Qi didn't say anything. He just stared at Gu Donglu in silence, as if he was able to see something from his halo. They wanted to capture him. Was it because? No, it shouldn't be possible. The celestial gate of Heavenly Gate should be extinct. We apologize to bother Your Majesty. The young man slightly bowed and walked to Gu Donglu. The life force emitting from his body was copious, extremely forceful. Gu Donglu was severely injured. Looking at the warriors coming to him, he saw Emperor Qi's attitude. Gu Donglu immediately understood that these people who came to capture him had prestigious identities, even higher than Emperor Qi, the Renhuang. Otherwise, they would not dare to intrude into the imperial palace. "I will go by myself," said Gu Donglu. There was no need to persist. He took a step toward them and gave up resisting. He headed here after he got news about Yi Futian, and still reached the imperial palace after many difficulties. Since Yi Futian was his younger brother attracted attention from the Renhuang in this territory, he thought he would be safe here. But obviously, he underestimated these people's identities. Even a Renhuang didn't dare to block them. It meant that even if he had found Yi Futian and others, it would be useless and might get them involved. So, he would just go with them. It was just so far. He hadn't figured out what the whole thing was about. Why did these people have to capture him? Again, "I apologize for this trouble I brought, Your Majesty." The young man bowed and said to Emperor Qi after noticing Gu Donglu following them, "Hope I can visit you again if I have the chance. Besides, Your Majesty can let your people depart now." After these words, they turned around and soon left the imperial palace. Emperor Qi's face gradually vanished in the void sky. In the banquet, when Emperor Qi's mind came back, many people were watching him. They all noticed Emperor Qi released his mind. Nobody knew what happened. A beam of mind shot out, and immediately, a virtual scene appeared in the void sky. Yi Futian suddenly rose to his feet and yelled, "Third brother!" Emperor Qi looked toward Yi Futian. Did he call him third brother? The sword saint stood up too. He looked quite worried. "Your Majesty, that person is my elder brother. Please show mercy to stop them," Yi Futian pleaded. He didn't know who Gu Donglu had offended, but now, only Emperor Qi could save him. Emperor Qi looked toward Yi Futian and said, "The token he holds in hand is called the token of Wu Tuesday. They belong to the place which I just told you about, one of the 8 orthodoxies of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Their real strength is very strong." Yi Futian turned pale. Even Emperor Qi didn't dare to block them? The 8 orthodoxies of the Violet Heavenly Palace. How did the third brother offend them? "Master, let's go chase them," said Yi Futian to Qi Xiangang. "There is no use of it. They had crossed the space and left using divine instruments," said Emperor Qi. This Gu Donglu should not be a simple person since a direct descendant of the palace chased him. But with such a divine instrument, no wonder the young man could take him away even though he had arrived. There was no other way to go. Was he really your brother from Crimson Dragon Realm? Emperor Qi looked toward Yi Futian and asked. Yi Futian raised his head and looked quite confused. Is your brother related to the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven? Emperor Qi continued asking. The Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven? Yi Futian murmured. It is a top power in the Heavenly Mandate Realm. The third brother came from the lower realms. How could he have a connection with them? No, we came from Emperor Xia's realm of Crimson Dragon Realm, a smaller place, and so did my brother. He shouldn't have any connection with them, replied Yi Futian. What is your brother's last name? Emperor Qi fixed his eyes on him and continued asking. His last name is Gu, replied Yi Futian. He felt very anxious. However, Emperor Qi might have known something, so he just replied honestly. Gu. An appalling beam of sharp will came out of Emperor Qi's eyes. Even the life force around his body began to fluctuate. The four highest ancient clans controlled the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven at the political apex of the Heavenly Mandate Realm. The Gu clan of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven should have been extinct. That lunatic should have been the last person of the clan. But now, a person whose last name was Gu showed up in the Heavenly Mandate Realm. If he really belonged to the Gu clan, he would very likely stir up a storm in the Heavenly Mandate Realm. Your Majesty, Yi Futian looked at Emperor Qi and said, What happened? Emperor Qi stared at him and didn't respond, but rather, he delivered his voice to him and said, Your brother's life spirit and ability are very similar to the ones used by the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven of the past. However, the Gu clan in the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven is extinct now. Yi Futian was shocked by what Emperor Qi had told him. The Gu clan was extinct. But third brother's cultivation methods were very similar to the ones of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven Gu clan. Was it just a coincidence? Didn't Master kidnap the third brother? And Master didn't say the third brother had anything special. Or was Gu Donglu sent to the lower realms to take refuge in childhood? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian still had questions. He looked toward Emperor Qi and said telepathically, Your Majesty, my brother indeed is talented, but he is not powerful to an appalling level, and shouldn't be one of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Can't it be a coincidence that he just has some similar abilities? Yi Futian still had questions. He looked toward Emperor Qi and said telepathically, Your Majesty, my brother indeed is talented, but he is not powerful to an appalling level, and shouldn't be one of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Can't it be a coincidence that he just has some similar abilities? Then why did they want to capture him? Asked Emperor Qi. Although I don't know the reason behind it, in all likelihood, that was the case. Yi Futian was still confused and anxiously continued. If my brother is the real descendant of the Gu clan, what will they do to him? And how did the ancient Gu clan go extinct? The Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven was at the political apex in the Heavenly Mandate Realm, and so far, it was still one of the highest and most powerful powers. So how did the Gu clan go extinct? If your brother is a descendant of the Gu clan, very probably, he will stir up a storm in the Heavenly Mandate Realm. But I can assure you, they would not dare to kill your brother, and will not do that, said Emperor Qi. Even though they are one of the 8 Violet Heaven orthodoxies, they don't dare to turn hostile against the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven completely. He continued, As for why the Gu clan went extinct, it is a long story. The Gu clan used to be a top power of the Heavenly Mandate Realm, all because of a legendary figure who was invincible in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. He made the Gu clan and the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven become the top powers of the Heaven Mandate Realms. Emperor Qi was reminiscing. He looked into the distance, full of yearning for that era. There used to 12 godlike figures in the Gu clan whose graceful bearings were unparalleled in the world. They were much stronger than the 9 sky goddess, serving under the throne of Brahma's pure sky, especially that figure, who owned all talent of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. He tried to break the fetters of the heavenly law, reached the top of cultivation, and became the top one deity of the heavenly mandate realm. But he who won the victory also caused the defeat. Because he offended the whole heavenly mandate realm, many top figures of the heavenly mandate realm entered the celestial gate. It was said that the battle brought the sky and earth to tears. On the battlefield, the great law collapsed, and corpses were scattered everywhere. Countless gallant heroes ended their lives there, until the celestial gate of vast heaven was no longer able to afford the cost, and terminated him themselves, which also put that era to an end. During that time, how peerless that legendary warrior was. And the ending of the battle was that the celestial gate of vast heaven was still on the top of the heavenly mandate realm, but all the memories of that person were wiped out. Not only him, but the Gu clan also completely disappeared in the records of history. After that battle, the lunatic vanished in the chaos. Some people said he had died. Some said he was still alive with a wisp of faith. That warrior's level was indeed infinitely close to perfection. Now, if a descendant of the Gu clan showed up, one could imagine what kind of storm he would conjure. This thing might not be kept under wraps for long. Nobody can predict what your brother's destiny will be like, Emperor Qi said to Yi Futian. Yi Futian looked pale. Did his third brother belong to the Gu clan? If it was true, the third brother would be involved in a chaotic storm. Your Majesty, which power did those people belong to? Asked Yi Futian. The territory of Emperor of Purple Underground, said Emperor Qi. The Emperor of Purple Underground ruled over one land, and was the leader of the Purple Underworld. The Purple Underworld of this generation inherited the infernal thunder of Wutu in the divine thunder of Purple Heaven, and strengthened it. The Purple Underworld was one of the 8 orthodoxies of the Violet Heavenly Palace. There were countless strong warriors under the demand of the Emperor of Purple Underground. The event that I just mentioned, Qiyu's trial, will be held in that district. In the map of the Heavenly Mandate Realm, Emperor Qi's territory was also within this district, and the territory of the Purple Underground Emperor was at the center of the district. Of course, from a broader point of view, one could observe that the Violet Heavenly Palace was at the very center of the Heavenly Mandate Realm. The Violet Heavenly Palace spread teachings to the world, and in this district, there were 8 orthodoxies. Knowledge of cultivation radiated from these 8 orthodoxies, and this whole boundless area was almost all under their influence. That was why it was said that all the thunder techniques originated from the Heavenly Palace. The endless thunder techniques were all derived from the thunder laws of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Your Majesty, I should go now, Yi Futian said to Emperor Qi, cupping his hands. Emperor Qi, of course, understood his intentions. He took out a jade slip and said, "Inside the slip, there is a map of this district. If the message spreads, a storm will rise in the Purple Underworld Emperor's territory. In that situation, it is almost impossible for you to save your brother, and you can only depend on this." Since the Purple Underground Emperor's subordinates came to capture him, they would hand him over to the Purple Underground Emperor. Even Emperor Qi was unable to intervene. Although Emperor Qi was a Renhuang, and so was Emperor of Purple Underground, the legitimate heir of Violet Heavenly Palace, Emperor of Purple Underground, had a higher level. "Aye," Yi Futian answered, nodding. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Emperor Qi didn't say anything and turned to the others, announcing, "I really wish I could have had more conversation with all of you in today's banquet. But unluckily, an accident occurred and has wasted much of my time. Let's call it a day, and you may leave at your discretion." People were a little confused by Emperor Qi's words. He and Yi Futian communicated a lot through telepathy, and many people had no idea what happened. Yi Futian looked around and saw Yin Teng, Yin and I, and Yin Qianhua sitting in the last row. "Sir, ma'am, I am deeply grateful for all you've done during these days. Now I should go. Let's meet again if we have the chance," Yi Futian said to Yin Teng, cupping his hands. Yin Teng and Yin and I rose to their feet and came near Yi Futian. Yin Qianhua followed them and looked quite worried. "Brother Yi, take care," Yin Teng said wholeheartedly. He was very grateful to Yi Futian. If he had not taken Yi Futian back to the clan by coincidence, nobody knew what kind of destiny would be waiting for this family. Sir Yi, please take care of yourself. Yun and I also said. I will, said Yi Futian, nodding. He soon turned to Yun Qianyue and said, since you have become His Majesty's disciple, you will have the chance to learn his teachings. Qianyue, try your best to grasp the chance. His Majesty teaches much better than I do. Yun Qianyue didn't want him to leave, but she still nodded and said, Sir, I will keep what you said in mind. Okay, I should go, said Yi Futian. Then the whole group of warriors bowed to Emperor Qi and left. They stepped into the air and crossed over the void sky. Emperor Qi stood there and watched them leave. He was going to arrange for Yi Futian and the others to go with Qi Yu. But now since the thing happened, he just had to leave it aside. If you meet him in the future, try to help him if you can, Emperor Qi said to Qi Yu. Qi Yu nodded, showing he understood. You should start to get ready too. After a few days, you can depart with them. Emperor Qi looked toward the others and said, Your Majesty, it's time for us to bid farewell too. Qi Shang and others rose to their feet and requested to leave. This time, they came with Yi Futian from the Crimson Dragon realm, but they couldn't stay with him all the time. He also had planned to go somewhere else. Now, since Yi Futian's brother had trouble, and Yi Futian couldn't wait to depart, they would not go with him. Not only Qi Shang, but other warriors who came with him from the Thousand Leaves City were also just Yi Futian's companions. Yi Futian didn't expect them to help solve this issue, because very likely this time, he would have to face great difficulty. Just as Emperor Qi had speculated, although the Purple Underground Emperor's action of capturing Gu Donglu was confidential, Emperor Qi was not the only one who witnessed it. The secret was soon leaked. A descendant of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven Gu clan showed up, and was captured by the Purple Underground Emperor's subordinates, and imprisoned in the Purple Underground Emperor's territory. The Gu clan was a clan in the legend and heavenly mandate realm. It was said that the clan had 12 godlike figures, and a lunatic who mastered the ultimate celestial law, and was able to break into the path realms of all skies. Did his cultivation method still exist? And since a descendant of the Gu clan showed up, were there any others? How many secrets did Gu Donglu have? Soon, the Purple Underground Emperor's territory became the center of the whole realm, and the destination of numerous great warriors who were coming to unveil the secret. In addition, the message had even caught the attention of many top powers. It was said that the Violet Heavenly Palace had sent warriors to take Gu Donglu into the Violet Heavenly Palace. The Purple Underworld sect didn't hand him over to the Violet Heavenly Palace, perhaps because they had their own thoughts. On this day, outside the Purple Underground City, numerous warriors traveled in the air, heading toward this ancient city. Saint Plain figures with strong cultivation abilities were everywhere. Among all these travelers, a group of people, who came from one direction, were all Saint Plain warriors. Yi Futian was standing in the front. Next to him stood Yu Sheng, Xia Qingyuan, Yi Wuchen, Huang Jiuge and others. Qi Xiangang and Wu Yong stood behind them. Their saint levels differed. We have arrived, Yi Futian said in a low voice. Since they departed from Emperor Qi's territory, they had covered an infinite distance. Don't know if Donglu is okay or not, the Sword Saint murmured. He had been worried about Gu Donglio's safety. He hoped he would be fine. Yi Futian was emotionless. Around them, warriors kept passing by. There was a voice coming from nearby. This time, the Purple Underground Emperor's territory will be bustling. I heard that not only warriors of this territory would come, but top powers of the whole realm will also all send warriors here. Was the descendant of the Gu clan that attractive to them? Someone inquired. If you heard from elders about the thing that happened in the past, you would understand, someone else replied. But besides the descendant of the Gu clan, a big event being held in the Purple Underground Emperor's territory is also a reason that many talented people are attracted here. It will be perfect if we can see the young generation of those top powers. Normal people were usually unable to see the descendants of all top powers. They would not come here. If what you said is true, does it mean I can even have the chance of seeing the saintesses under the throne of Nine Sky Goddess? What a loser! People around him jeered. The Nine Sky Goddess of the Brahma's pure sky was peerless in this world. The saintesses serving under her throne were also very unusual figures. Were there any men in the world who didn't want to see their faces? But how could they easily be seen? Futian quietly listened to what people around him talked about. Would the Brahmin's pure sky show up? What kind of person was that warrior of the Gu clan? Even a descendant of the Gu clan could raise such a big storm. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. In the Purple Nether City, everybody was talking about two things. One was the descendant of the Gu clan. Obviously, the peerless figures of the Gu clan in the old days had so much influence on the heavenly mandate realms that even after many years, the appearance of a Gu clan descendant could stir up a disturbance. The person that was mentioned most frequently was that lunatic of the Gu clan. Futian had known his real name, Gu Tianxing. He was not sure if third brother was a descendant of the Gu clan, and didn't know if that legendary figure Gu Tianxing had any connection with the third brother. But now, since third brother was imprisoned, nobody knew what would happen to him. Countless warriors were heading toward the heavenly mandate realm. Numerous people had discussed the possibility that those top powers would also come for this descendant of the Gu clan. Under such a situation, Futian also felt unsettled. The second thing that people talked about was the Heavenly Thunder Summit held on Wuxia Mountain. It was a big event in the Purple Underground territory, especially for cultivators who cultivated in Thunder laws. It was a very rare opportunity. Otherwise, Emperor Qi would not have sent his son Qi Yu here. Futian had heard a lot about the Heavenly Thunder Summit of the Wuxia Mountain and known what it was about. In fact, there was not much connection between the Heavenly Thunder Summit and the Purple Underground sect. It was initiated directly by the Violet Heavenly Palace, the ultimate land of Thunder laws in the Heavenly Mandate realm. They spread the teachings to the world and let all suitable cultivators have the chance to learn Thunder laws. Some people even had the opportunity to follow the orthodoxy of Wutu Infernal Thunder and became a successor of the Purple Underworld sect. Wutu Mountain was worshipped as the divine mountain of this territory. It was located within the Purple Nether City. At this moment, numerous warriors gathered in one place of the city. The whole area was full of people. There were stairs in front of the crowd, and the entrance of the divine mountain was at the top of stairs. Usually, people were prohibited from entering this divine mountain. No one was allowed to get inside. Outside the mountain, around the stairs and below them, there were giant stone pillars surrounded by the horrifying power of thunder. They let out rumbles of dull thunder, keeping people away. At this moment, Futian had also come to this district. The divine mountain had not been open to the public yet, but many people had arrived beforehand and were viewing the scenery. Nobody knew how many people would inherit the thunder laws of the divine mountain this time. Futian came here because entering the divine mountain was the only chance for him to approach the Purple Underground sect and learn about Third Brother's current situation. Don't know how many people will be chosen this time, someone said in the crowd. Not sure, but at least I know who will reach the top of the divine mountain and inherit the heavenly thunder laws of Wutu, someone said laughing. It goes without saying, people nearby jeered. Streaking Cloud Sword Emperor's offspring Lu Yu will definitely become the one who uses his sword to draw the heavenly thunder. The Streaking Cloud Sword Emperor was a Runhuang lord in this district. He cultivated in swordsmanship with thunder laws and was good at drawing thunder by sword. He had outstanding skills. This time, he was the most promising one to reach the top of the divine mountain. Don't be so sure. This time talents of all territories within this vast district will come. Every cultivator who specializes in thunder law might be here. So competitive warriors may be much more than you have expected. There will definitely be a lot of outstanding figures showing up. Not to mention others, but will the Demon Emperor's offspring be weak? His sturdy body was smelted by thunder laws and can endure a great amount of sky thunder. Why can't he become the chosen one of the heavenly thunder? Someone nearby continued. And don't forget about the Bamboo Emperor's daughter. Many people nodded slightly. Indeed, this time, many warriors of this vast space would join the gathering, and even warriors of other territories would come too. Yi Futian quietly listened in the crowd. Ren Huang's children were rarely seen in the heavenly mandate realm. Those people's real strength should be outstanding. Now he had finally reached the top of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, the ultimate realm. He might meet all kinds of big figures here. I have heard that Imu, Binghua, and other orthodoxies of Thunder Law have all gradually reached and entered the imperial palace. Not only that, but nowadays in this purple nether city, perhaps among us, there are people of very distant powers, but they didn't come for the divine mountain. The Gu clan had vanished for many years and became history, and the descendant of the Gu clan is said to have only an average level of cultivation ability. How did he cause such a disturbance? Someone asked in confusion. Because his last name is Gu, and Gu Tianqing belonged to the Gu clan, an elder warrior replied serious. Many young people had never experienced the uproar of that time, and didn't know who Gu Tianqing was. Thus, they lacked respect for him. The higher a warrior's level was, the more he could understand Gu Tianqing's power, and the more he would pay attention to the descendant of the Gu clan. Anyone who had experienced the uproar of that year could not stay calm and act like nothing happened, knowing about the Gu clan descendant's appearance. Let's go, Yi Futian said in the crowd. His companions nodded and soon left with him. Xia Qingyuan asked him, even if you enter the Wuxia divine mountain, what is the use of reaching the top and inheriting the thunder laws? Do you really want to study in the purple underground sect and become a successor of one of the 8 violet heavenly palace orthodox sects? Of course not, replied Yi Futian. It was not his goal. The Wuxia divine mountain inherited the great laws of thunder. The chosen ones could only be one of the successors of purple underground sect, one of the 8 violet heavenly palace orthodox sects. He might be interested if he could become the successor of the whole 8 orthodox sects. Of course, then his target would be the violet heavenly palace instead of the purple underground sect. The violet underground palace included 8 parts of heritage, and the 8 sects spread teachings of thunder laws in the heavenly mandate realm. Even a power like purple underground sect actually didn't have any direct connection with the violet heavenly palace. The purple underground sect was not subordinated to the violet heavenly palace and had its own heritage of laws. Their relationship was subtle, but of course, people usually just regarded them as having the same lineage. They all inherited from the violet heavenly palace. Yi Futian and others found a place to stay and used the time to cultivate patiently. Every day new warriors were rushing into the purple nether city. More and more people had arrived. There were even messages leaking out from the purple underground imperial palace that the Runhuang emperor of purple underground was considering how to deal with the descendant of the Gu clan. But now, since more and more issues were getting involved, the Runhuang emperor of purple underground didn't dare to make arbitrary decisions. It was said that many top powers were on their way here. The hearsay made Yi Futian, who was cultivating in the courtyard, quite unsettled. Now third brother was basically waiting to be killed, but Yi Futian had no solution, because the top power of heavenly mandate realm was involved, not to mention him. But even Emperor Xia or Emperor Crimson Dragon couldn't do anything for him. Still worried about your brother? A person came near and asked. Yi Futian raised his head and saw Master. He slightly nodded and asked, do you have any advice, Master? You don't need to worry too much. Although I hadn't observed closely before, during the time I spent with your brother, I have seen your third brother's fortune. He should be fine, said Qi Xiangang. It's possible that this storm will become an opportunity for him. But the Gu clan is extinct. Who else can rescue him? Asked Yi Futian. He thought his master was just comforting him since he was too worried. You don't know what happened at that time. You don't know your third brother's past and identity. As you said before, your brother was kidnapped by another master of yours, and he has never talked about his family background or what outstanding talent he had. If so, isn't it possible that someone designed it purposely? Qi Xiangang said. It is not an easy thing to send a person from the heavenly mandate realm to the lower realms. Yi Futian fell silent. What Master said indeed made sense. He had perceived it, too, that the third brother probably was the descendant of the Gu clan. Indeed, it was extremely hard to send a normal person to the 9 states of lower worlds. Besides, the third brother's talent was outstanding, but he hardly showed his real strength. Was there a secret behind it? He remembered the third brother's life spirit had experienced an awakening. There is always a way in the cultivation of the great law. Don't need to preoccupy yourself with all that had happened. Just focus on the present, and do what you are supposed to do, continued Qi Xiangang. Yi Futian nodded and didn't say much. Qi Xiangang turned around and soon left. Qi Xuangang's shoulders looked so wide and dependable from behind. So why did the master come to Heavenly Mandate Realm with Yi Futian? At this moment, Qi Xiangang was thinking of himself. Actually, he should not have come to the ultimate realm, but he still came. Just like last time, he was following his heart. All things coming up would have the best results. Instead of worrying, following things as they naturally occurred was a better choice. Everything had its time. He would try his best to live his life, and heaven had the answer of when his time would come. It was the day that the Wutu Divine Mountain would open. Numerous warriors gathered outside the Divine Mountain. Today was the day that the teachings of Wutu Divine Mountain would be spread, and the Violet Heavenly Palace would release the divine thunder of heavenly laws. Countless warriors had reached the Divine Mountain. They entered the Divine Mountain one after another. All of them had outstanding bearings. Only talented warriors dared to enter the Divine Mountain, while normal people might turn into ash under the divine thunder. A group of warriors showed up on the stairs. The ones who took the lead were all warriors of Nirvana Plane. There was also a young man standing among them. Seeing this person, Yi Futian's pupils slightly contracted. In the scene that Emperor Qi showed to him that day, this young man was the person who took away third brother. Obviously, he had a high standing in the Purple Underground sect. Yi Futian's stare was totally emotionless. That person's perception was keen. He seemed to notice, and took a glance at Yi Futian. Glancing at Yi Futian's expression, he felt strange, but soon, he moved his eyes elsewhere. He didn't pay attention to Yi Futian's existence. Today the 8 divine mountains will open at the same time. Here is the Wutu Divine Mountain. All of you can enter the Wutu Divine Mountain and inherit the laws of Wutu Infernal Thunder. I sincerely hope you can inherit the thunder laws and cultivate in the Purple Underground sect, the young man announced. Numerous people looked toward him, and many people communicated amongst themselves in low voices. He was the Purple Underground Emperor's favorite disciple, renowned in this district. With extraordinary talents, he once broke the previous record and undertook 900 heavenly thunders in the Divine Mountain. He was considered to be the heir to the lineage of Wutu. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian heard people's discussion and had an idea of who the young man was. Yi Futian heard people's discussion and had an idea of who the young man was. So he went through 900 streaks of divine thunder on the top of the Wutu Divine Mountain? He thought. Yi Futian was really interested to see just how powerful the orthodox sect of thunder laws from the Violet Heavenly Palace really was. Such an opportunity was extremely rare for thunder laws cultivators, which was why the opening ceremony of the 8 divine mountains was always a big event in the Heavenly Mandate realm and attracted a lot of strong cultivators. And one last reminder, you are responsible for your own safety in Wutu Divine Mountain. The law of divine thunder is dangerous, and Wutu Infernal Thunder is deadly. The higher your plane is, the more attacks you will meet, the young man continued. People understood what he meant. The stronger one's cultivation ability was, the more intense the thunder laws would be in the falling thunder induced by the Great Law. It was said that no Nirvana Plane cultivators had entered the 8 divine mountains for many years. However, there was not much influence on cultivators. All cultivators would choose to enter the divine mountains when they were 2 levels before Saint Plane, so that they could get more chances. If they didn't succeed in these 2 levels, it was meaningless to enter during unblemished and Nirvana levels. At this moment, behind the young man, a deep roll of dull thunder came. It was as if something was in the process of formation. The enclosed sky in the distance changed color, as if the destructive thunder might was converging. The young man turned his head and took a glance. He soon waved his hand and made way for participants, then said, "The divine thunder will soon fall upon the divine mountain. Please get ready to enter the divine mountain." After he finished talking, suddenly, all cultivators started flashing toward Wuxia divine mountain. "Let's go," said Futian. This time, all young cultivators in his group would enter the divine mountain, and the older Nirvana-playing cultivators would wait outside. Although the sword Saint Wuxian and others didn't cultivate in thunder laws, they were still awed by the majesty of the divine thunder of the great law, so they also wanted to use its power to cleanse their bodies and purify their own laws. It was very beneficial to cultivators. They were not the only ones who thought like this. Many saint-playing cultivators of the heavenly mandate realm also chose to enter the divine mountain on the launching date. In the imperial palace of the Purple Nether City, many important figures were looking toward the direction of the divine mountain. They all knew the 8 divine mountains were opened. Some of those cultivators who entered the divine mountain would become new successors of thunder laws of the heavenly mandate realm. Some of them would join the 8 orthodox sects of the thunder laws, like the Purple Underground sect in the future. Some of the more outstanding ones might even have the chance to enter the Violet Heavenly Palace and become their disciples. Futian had just stepped into the space of Wuxia Divine Mountain. White and purple lightning flickered on the earth, roaming over every inch of land. A gust of suffocating might drop down from the sky dome. Above their heads, long rolls of dull thunder came from the sky dome. A boundless saucer thunderstorm was in formation. Sky and earth were wrapped in darkness, but at the same time, illuminated by the flashes of thunder. The saucer-shaped heavenly thunder enveloped all layers of skies, circulating in the upper air. The center zone of the storm had the strongest might, and the Wuxia Divine Mountain was right below it. Standing on the top of the Divine Mountain, one just felt the saucer storm was over his head. Seen from a distance, the scene was very appalling. Even imagining standing on the top of the mountain would give many goosebumps. "Be careful," Futian reminded. They walked between the sky and earth. The light flew from the ground to their bodies and roamed around their bodies. The power of thunder didn't attack them, but when it roamed around his body, Futian could clearly feel there was a connection between him and the heavenly thunder above the sky dome. Futian looked toward others and saw many warriors try to merge the roaming power of thunder into their bodies. He understood. He switched his mind, and suddenly, the dazzling light started to flow around his body, merging the power of roaming thunder as his own. The thunder flow was running even faster. The induction between his body and the great law of thunder from the sky became even stronger. It was as if they were supposed to be in symbiosis. Some extraordinary talented figures were very confident. They headed in the direction of the central divine mountain at a breakneck pace, while converting the thunder at the same time. Only those who could stand firm on the mountain were qualified for the laws of Wuxia infernal thunder, and had the chance to cultivate in the Purple Underground sect. Futian was also heading toward the divine mountain. Not only him, but everyone else did the same. They kept tempering the thunder around them while walking, merging the power into their bodies. Thrum. In the distance, the fastest warrior had stepped up into the divine mountain. He raised both hands in the air, and suddenly, a sword appeared. Endless power of thunder flew around the sword. "Come to the sword," he said. Suddenly a muffled sound came from the sky dome like the beats of a drum. Dazzling beams of light were released from the sword. When the great laws of divine thunder fell from the sky dome, another dull sound came. The thunder light from the sky dome and the sword light collided. Endless divine thunder flew down into the sword and entered the warrior's body, merging into his flesh and bones. "That is the streaking cloud sword emperor's offspring." Someone recognized that swordsman in training and said. The streaking cloud sword emperor's descendant, Lu Yu, was considered to be one of the most promising warriors, one who could reach the top of the divine mountain and go through the Wuxia heavenly thunder. Few participants could compete with him. Boom! At this moment, his sword attracted the heavenly thunder from the sky, and the falling heavenly thunder kept flowing into his body through his sword. It was as if it was merging into his body. Lu Yu continued striding forward. He wanted to reach the top of the Wutu Divine Mountain as fast as he could. Not far away from Lu Yu, a lightning figure was also forcing his way forward. Endless thunder might was released from his body. He was heading toward the front like a terrifying holy beast. He was not a human cultivator. He was a descendant of a demon emperor who was good at thunder laws. The original body of the figure was a very powerful divine thunderbird sacred beast. Even though he was in a human figure, his mouth looked like a beak, and when he rushed up to the divine mountain, he directly opened his mouth. His body was covered by the appalling roaming thunder might. Boom! Lightning fell from the sky and was almost going to hit him, but he seemed not to care at all. He let out a shriek, and suddenly, his human body turned into a beast. His sharp beak was open wide, and every one of his feathers looked like it contained the luster of lightning. When he opened his beak, the thunder in the sky directly fell and entered his mouth. He just swallowed it like it was a vitamin. But even so, his body radically trembled once, and his upward movement was slowed down. However, that happened for one moment. After he swallowed the thunder, he continued going upward. Divine thunderbirds were born as the sacred beasts of thunder. They could directly devour the laws of thunder. They were natural demons of thunder species, just like some human cultivators who had the natural talent to cultivate. Besides Lu Yu and the divine thunderbird, several cultivators had also entered the divine mountain. Among them, there was a graceful lady whose movement was extraordinarily swift and elegant. She was also very good at deploying the power of thunder. People continually entered the Wutu Divine Mountain. Some warriors were being crushed and falling from the Wutu Divine Mountain, blood streaming from their mouths. They looked very miserable. Battles also broke out between some warriors. The dazzling holy light enveloped Yi Futian. His body turned into the cauldron of the great law, burning all beings on earth. The thunder might that roamed around his body was also refined. At this moment, he had also stepped into the Wutu Divine Mountain. In just one moment, the saucer-shaped heavenly thunder above the sky dome seemed to perceive something. All of a sudden, the heavenly thunder fell down and directly darted toward him. Since many people had stepped into the divine mountain, Yi Futian could see endless heavenly thunder drop down, as if it was the end of the world. The scene was very appalling. Boom! After a loud sound, the great law of thunder immediately fell. Yi Futian just felt the hefty might of the great law was crushing over his body, and he had to endure all of this. The intimidating power of destruction was about to smash his body into pieces, and it was still roaming on every part of his body. The dazzling deed of thorough comprehension was released to the extreme. Yi Futian transformed the thunder in his body as his energy, and gradually got familiar with the might. Besides Yi Futian, Yu Sheng and others were also enduring the attacks of thunder. As a booming sound came, they all perceived the appalling trembling, and defended their thunder might with their sturdy builds and powers. As warriors gradually stepped into the Wutu Divine Mountain, endless lightning dropped down from the saucer-shaped thunderstorm above the sky dome. Everyone perceived the real sense of destruction. It was as if the whole world of great law would collapse. Boom! The might fell down. The dropping divine thunder of the great law produced a kind of resonance with horrifying power. Many people felt their minds were trembling, as if their brains would explode. Overwhelmed by such irresistible power, they all felt their existences were trivial. Lu Yu, at the highest height, stretched out two hands. Suddenly, tens of thousands of swords made metallic clangs. The swords induced the heavenly thunder, which dropped down on his body. The scene was incredibly gorgeous. The divine thunder kept flying up in the sky, devouring all the heavenly thunder. However, others were all thinking about how to avoid such appalling attacks. The result of so many warriors gathering in the Wutu Divine Mountain was dying together. The only solution was to remove most of them from the Divine Mountain and weaken the might of thunder. When the endless thunder fell, next to Yi Futian, a warrior raised two hands to induce the heavenly thunder and merge it in his palms. But the heavenly thunder flew down endlessly. He let out a shout and moved his palms, throwing the attack to Yi Futian and his companions. The thunder in his palms exploded, trembling the sky and earth. The horrifying thunder darted toward Yi Futian and Xia Yuan, and all of a sudden, came to the front. Bam! Xia Yuan was defending against the thunder from the sky, and unexpectedly got hit by the thunder from his palms. But since she was defending the heavenly thunder from the sky, and had a shield around her body, she was not severely hurt. But even so, she let out a low humph and was shaken away, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Not only Xia Yuan, but other companions were also being attacked too. On the battleground, there were warriors inducing the heavenly thunder to attack others everywhere. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Anyone who had stepped into the divine mountain knew of the might of the 8 mountains. Lightning bolts fell, and they were turned into way of the heavenly thunder. They brought about greater lightning powers in them. The attacks would grow even stronger next time. Anyone who had stepped into the divine mountain knew of the might of the 8 mountains. Lightning bolts fell, and they were turned into way of the heavenly thunder. They brought about greater lightning powers in them. The attacks would grow even stronger next time. As such, many who were out to withstand the might of the heavenly thunder at the divine mountain were unable to bear it toward the end, unless the one in question was compatible with the infernal thunder of Wuxia, enabling the seeds to be planted and completely meld within their body, causing them to develop talents for training in the ways of the infernal thunder of Wuxia. They would have then inherited one of the 8 orthodoxies of the way of the heavenly thunder of Wuxia. Even so, they would be unable to withstand strikes that were just too powerful. As the ordeal went on, the might grew to increasingly terrifying proportions. That legendary genius outside of the divine mountain had been able to withstand 900 bolts of the heavenly thunder, gaining the attention of Arun Huang, and was taken in as a student of Emperor of Purple Underground. As such, at that moment, many who wanted to plant seeds that were not all that powerful, which were available at earlier phases, needed to purge all other heavenly thunder as attacks other than the lightning seeds that were intended to be worked on. Doing so enabled them to throw others off of the divine mountain, and that would have enabled them to reduce competitors. The process was to be continued until later phases, before working on the seeds of infernal thunder of Wuxia to fulfill the requirements of the purple underworld. This would then give them the right to train under the purple underworld, making them part of the lineage of the infernal thunder of Wuxia. As such, the phenomenon where countless unleashed attacks at the same time were seen on the divine mountain. Yi Futian, Xia Yuan, and the others were also attacked by lightning bolts brought about by those around them. The one who attacked them was a member of younger generations of some significant forces, who had exceptional talent in lightning manipulation. He was determined to train under the Emperor of Purple Underground on that trip to the divine mountain. Being accepted by the Emperor of Purple Underground implied that one would have acquired the true lineage of the infernal thunder of Wuxia. To those who trained in the way of lightning, other than the Violet Heavenly Palace, the 8 true lineages of the way of thunder, descending from the Violet Heavenly Palace, would be the perfect choice. Yi Futian flashed and held Xia Yuan up and asked in a low voice, "Are you all right?" Xia Yuan shook her head. She did not train in the way of lightning, so she was having a hard time on the divine mountain. Yi Futian let go of her and glanced at the one who had just attacked them. That other person simply shot him a glance before continuing to make his way upward. He held his hands up and continued to attract lightning bolts, causing terrifying destructive powers to be contained on his hands. Boom! A bolt of lightning shot through the air, and Yi Futian disappeared from where he stood right away. That person seemed to have sensed something, and his brow twitched. He turned around and lashed out right away. The lightning in his hands turned into a huge quay of lightning. It was extremely raging. It charged at Yi Futian while basking in divine lightning. The might of thunder shrouded the sky, enveloping Yi Futian's surroundings. Boom! The might of Yi Futian's deed of thorough comprehension burst with a rumble. The furnace of the great path turned into an extremely holy god of thunder, standing tall in the sky, bringing thousands of lightning bolts as it stood, tearing the space all around it. That quay of lightning roared in anger. The lightning bolts bursting from its body shrouded the place altogether before thousands of lightning will burst through it, which then continued blasting until they hit that person. An intense beam of light was seen, and that person shuddered violently. The flash of lightning was seen bursting again. Futian appeared right before him, and lashed out with an attack. Boom! A rumble was heard, and the might of lightning burst within that person's body, who was then sent flying and spitting up blood. Intense fear was seen in his eyes. Being severely injured on the divine mountain would have been possibly lethal, and one could very possibly perish on the mountain from it. Look out! Xia Qingyuan warned. Futian looked up. A bolt of lightning fell, and was immersed within his body. Futian felt as if his body was about to explode. His will rattled, and something seemed to have been triggered within him, causing the might of that lightning bolt to grow more intense. His body ground to a halt. He felt as if there was an intensely brilliant light in his body. It was like a seed of the great path, causing the lightning on the divine mountain to course all over his body in a frenzy. That would have resulted in the next attack becoming even stronger. A seed of the infernal thunder of Wuxia? Futian muttered deep down. The Violet Heavenly Palace was a top-notch force in that supreme imperial realm. They were simply unbelievable for being able to rain down lightning bolts on the 8 divine mountains to filter out those who would inherit the ways of lightning. A shriek was heard by Futian's side. He turned to look in that direction, finding the one whom he had injured before being struck by a lightning bolt, and was unable to take it. That man's internal organs ruptured, and he kept spewing blood. His body continued to fall from the divine mountain. However, no one else looked at him. One could have been a genius of superb talent, but once a person ventured into the divine mountain, they would simply be just a face in the crowd. There were simply too many geniuses around, making him looking insignificant. Even if he were to die at the mountain, he would only have his incompetence to blame. Everyone knew of the dangers on the Wutu Divine Mountain. One had to weigh the pros and cons as they moved. Even with the dangers lurking around, countless came to the Divine Mountain nonetheless. However, a lot of people were forced to get off of the mountain, and others were injured within a short time. There were even others who had been like that man, and suffered a horrible end. If another bolt of lightning were to hit him, death would have probably claimed him. You guys don't train in the ways of lightning, so it'd be enough for you all to just have your bodies tempered. If you're unable to take it, feel free to get off of the mountain, Futian said to Xia Qingyuan, Yu Sheng, and the others. Xia Qingyuan nodded. People who did not train the ways of lightning were at a considerable disadvantage at the Divine Mountain. The attack from that man before had attracted a bolt of lightning right away, tapping into the lightning will throughout the Divine Mountain. I'll head up, Futian said, and his body shot up as soon as he finished, taking to the sky and heading for higher places at the Divine Mountain. Thousands of thunderous beams of light appeared on Futian, looking endless and spreading out like a formless net. Boom! Lightning rained from above, and boundless lightning bombarded all over the sky. Heavenly lightning shot into his body. His life palace unleashed a mystical aura, seeping out into his body. An ancient tree appeared, extending throughout his body, making it seem as if his body had become the trunk of the tree. Lightning powers flowing through his body was consumed right away by that tree, melding into it bit by bit. That lightning seed was also absorbed by the root of that ancient tree, causing lightning to sparkle at the root. Futian seemed to have become very used to something like that happening, and he did not feel anything to be out of place at all. Lightning from the Divine Mountain surged throughout Futian's body, causing the might of lightning all around him to grow increasingly intense. His body, which was continuing to go upward, surpassed many. He gradually became one of the handfuls of people who made it really far. As he went higher and higher, the might of the lightning bolts became increasingly strong. The lightning construct shrouding the entire Divine Mountain felt stifling. Boom! A young man dressed in a blue robe was not far away from Futian. A bolt of lightning hit that young man, and his blue robe billowed loudly. His body expanded, and the might of lightning extended throughout every single part of his body, so much so that even his eyes seemed to sparkle with lightning. He looked up at several people before him, and his expression turned solemn. Those eyes sparkling with blue light were filled with determination and edge. He was not only there to join the ranks of the purple underworld and train, he was also there to become the most dazzling being in the entire divine mountain of Wutu. He was a descendant of Renhuang, and inherited the path of Renhuang, enabling his lightning powers to be tremendous. Joining the ranks of purple underworld alone was hardly of any meaning to him. Thunderous noise sounded at his side. He turned around and saw Yi Futian, who continued to rise, and that other man, who was about to surpass him. It was obvious that he was not the only one with such intentions. "Stay down." A thunderous, overwhelming voice was heard. He took one step, causing the sky to shake. Yi Futian felt an extremely overbearing pressure come down on him. 5 bolts of lightning of different colors gathered, appearing on top of Yi Futian's head. The true ways of 5 thunder. Many looked up. They recognized who that young man was when he attacked. "Look out! That's the true ways of 5 thunder, capable of killing anything they touch," someone reminded from afar. Yi Futian turned to look at the one who talked, finding a familiar face. That person was none other than Prince Qiyu, son of Emperor Qi. When Emperor Qi invited them to head out with Qiyu, he was talking about to Wutu Divine Mountain. He had initially hoped that Yi Futian and his people would challenge the mountain with Qiyu, but they were there early due to something related to Gudonglu, and they met at the Divine Mountain. "Down!" The blue-robed young man pointed downwards, and the might of lightning throughout his body burst. 5 bolts of lightning were conjured, and seemed to have taken the form of a matrix as they rained down. Those 5-colored beams shrouded the entire place, and had engulfed the space where Yi Futian was as well. That was indeed a case of 5 thunders raining down on his head. His surroundings rumbled. Everything was to be crushed under the true ways of 5 thunder. Qi looked at Yi Futian's direction, and felt rather concerned. The true ways of 5 thunder were descended from a very formidable ancient being. Yi Futian clasped his hands together, and powers of the great path gathered. An ancient god of thunder appeared within an instant. Its tall, majestic body was forged of lightning, and it held a hammer of thunder, which was then brought down and clashed directly with the true ways of 5 thunder. A beam of light burst through the air, suppressing the true ways of 5 thunder. That ancient god had thousands of lightning bolts running throughout its body, which was then unleashed throughout its surroundings, and brought down on its target. Zzz, zzz. Lightning coursed throughout that man's body, causing him to shudder all over. That god of thunder's weapon was brought down again, which caused the 5 thunder to be suppressed further, before being thrown back into the conjurer's body. A massive rumble was heard, and that man's body seemed to be about to explode, blood splattering everywhere. Yi Futian nodded to Qiyu, and took another step forward as he continued his way upward. The path from then on was clear, and no one else stopped him. It was obvious that that one attack had shocked, and made everyone else think twice. Qiyu looked at Yi Futian's back with a troubled look. He was wondering if that man, who Qi Shang claimed to be the #1 genius throughout Crimson Dragon Realm, was about to reach the top of the Divine Mountain as well. Yi Futian's immense talents put even Qiyu to shame. That attack which Yi Futian just pulled was not something that powerful. Still, it was that his ability at tapping into the power of ambient lightning was far superior to his opponents. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian went up one step after another, and the mark left inside of him grew increasingly powerful. Lightning bolts throughout the Divine Mountain shrouded the vast space around him, with him at the very center. Yi Futian went up one step after another, and the mark left inside of him grew increasingly powerful. Lightning bolts throughout the Divine Mountain shrouded the vast space around him, with him at the very center. Every single bolt of lightning that smite was earth-shattering. Every part of his body was baptized by lightning. Even the ancient tree within him had boundless lightning coursing through it, but at the same time, it was also consuming the power of lightning. Is the power of the source of the great path? Yi Futian searched within himself and muttered. His body became a furnace when the deed of thorough comprehension was cast. refining the divine lightning of his surroundings, melding them with the lightning will within his life spirit. That was the meaning of the existence of the 8 divine mountains, passing down the teachings through the lightning bolts themselves, enabling the ones taking in the bolts to develop will of infernal thunder of Wutu within them, which in turn enabling them to develop talents for that element, paving their way for training within the Emperor of Purple Underground. Imparting the way through the lightning bolts was something that only top-notch forces in Supreme Imperial Realm were able to do. It was unimaginable to the lower worlds. Yi Futian's body had formidable adaptive abilities. With the World Tree Life Spirit and the deed of thorough comprehension at work, it resulted in him melding quickly with the lightning around him, causing all lightning will found within his body to gradually be developed into the will of the great path of infernal thunder of Wutu. With that, he became able to withstand thunderous might of greater power, as he became compatible with them. No one would have been able to sustain smiting from over 100 lightning bolts alone otherwise. As Yi Futian kept moving up and overtaking a greater number of people, eventually, there were only 3 people left before him. Lu Yu, a descendant of Sword Emperor of Shocking Clouds, the Thunderbird, a descendant of a demon emperor, Zhu Qi, daughter of the Bamboo Emperor. The Thunderbird continued to consume the lightning of the great path around. The lightning sheen on it shrouded the sky, shining on a vast area. Its eyes were extremely pointed, looking at Lu Yu, who was at the absolute highest point, leaving it and Zhu Qi in the dust behind. Presently, even the Thunderbird was enduring extremely great pressure. That was the same with Zhu Qi. Her body was moving extremely fast like an illusion, but when lightning bolts flashed, she would have been hindered. Yi Futian gradually caught up with them from behind. His steps were steady as he followed, heading towards the peak of Wutu Divine Mountain. The millstone-like thundercloud above raged on, making it seem like doomsday for those witnessing it. Boom! A rumble was heard. Countless on the Divine Mountain looked up, and saw a figure walk to the peak one step after another, holding a sword in his hand. The figure was none other than Lu Yu. Some speed indeed. Many shuddered to find that Lu Yu was actually about to get to the top. It was as speculated by many. Lu Yu indeed became the first to get to the top of the Divine Mountain, that descendant of the Sword Emperor of Shocking Clouds, who was capable of attracting lightning with his sword, and had incredible proficiency at the ways of lightning, was indeed a cut above the rest. He looked like some god of the sword. His back faced the ones below him, as he made it up one step at a time. Boom! Yet another flash of lightning blasted. His sword hung above him, and the bolts blasted onto the sword right away, which was then refined by the sword as it passed before finally surging into his body. He looked up in the sky and lifted his legs, continuing to move his way upwards. His sword aura was towering, and boundless lightning glimmered on his sword, making him looking dashing and legendary. That indeed is the number 1 among descendants of the Sword Emperor of Shocking Clouds. Lu Yu will probably be able to study under the Emperor of Purple Underground, some muttered deep down. Many found themselves inferior, looking at legendary figure beneath the thunderclouds. It was not that those people were looking down on themselves, but that it was a glaring fact proven by the powers of the one they were comparing themselves to. The ones who were capable of fighting him were probably the handful of people right below him. He's at the top. Lu Yu stepped out at that moment and reached the peak. The Thunderbird glittered as it moved below him, pulsing with towering flashes of lightning. Zhu Qi took an illusory form and continued moving upward. Her many bodies of lightning melded into a single entity eventually, as she moved while stepping on the lightning bolts, making her look impossibly beautiful like a goddess. Yi Futian continued moving steadily right behind them, and he was not all that far from the peak anymore. Lightning bolts flashed again, but they were not able to shake Lu Yu one bit. He refined the bolts as he looked up. There had been a person who withstood 900 strikes, and became a personal student of the Emperor of Purple Underground, becoming revered by countless and lauded as the orthodox of infernal thunder of Wutu. That person was to become one of those who would inherit one of the 9 thunders of the Violet Heavenly Palace. However, Lu Yu did not think so. Who came first had no bearing when it came to cultivation. What the other person had been able to do back then, he was able to do now as well. No one else had been capable of fighting him. He believed that no one below would be a challenge to him either. For lightning bolts struck from above at the central region of the millstone-like thundercloud. Lu Yu waved his right arm in a dashing manner. The sword hanging above him was quickly turned into 4 swords, appearing in 4 corners, and stopping the lightning bolts. Boom! The bolts hit the swords, which made it so that they were hitting Lu Yu as well. His clothes billowed, and the lightning flashed in a glittering manner. The might of thunder on the 4 swords surged towards his body. His bearing at the moment was nothing short of legendary. Lu Yu was able to stop the bolts and consume the path of lightning of others. Many looked shocked at what he did. That was a testament to the immense confidence he had in himself. It was as if he were to withstand being baptized by the heavenly bolts all on his own. He was the only being, and no one would have been able to compare to him. You all could stop now. Lu Yu looked down below him and continued. The divine mountain is open today, and I intend to break the past records. I shall withstand 1,000 strikes, and you all can train where you are. There will be no problem for all of you to enter the purple underworld to train. He knew that everyone wanted to reach the top, to stand at the peak of the divine mountain, and have themselves rained on by the lightning bolts, enabling them to become beings revered by all. But he deemed that the peak of divine mountain could only have one person stand on it, or it would look less than perfect. He had no intention of seeing any who came to the divine mountain as rivals. His rivals were those people outside. However, he was competing with them through time and space, as they were not of the same generation. How boisterous! The Thunderbird said in human speech. I intend to try as well at the peak and be struck by 1,000 bolts. How about you step down instead? The bird continued moving upward as soon as it was done saying that. The huge Thunderbird cast towering beams of lightning from its humongous body. Lu Yu shot a plain look at it, and did not say anything. He then pointed at the sword hanging in the air. The swords rang and howled under the thunder. Boom, boom, boom. Lightning bolts flashed and struck down again, as if the sword guided them. It was as if he had been attracting the bolts with his sword. Will of lightning in the vast area of the divine mountain gushed towards the sword in a frenzy. A towering flash of lightning of the sword glittered in his surroundings. The scene looked very harrowing. One sword shall command the thunderclouds. Lu Yu, descendant of the sword emperor of shocking clouds, uttered. The voice reverberated in the air. It was extraordinarily overbearing and sharp. The thunderclouds had indeed moved as the sword was drawn. A sword came down from the sky. The clouds moved with the sword as it zipped past his surroundings, tearing through the sky, and coming right before the Thunderbird's body. The Thunderbird howled loudly, and having taken its original form, its body was humongous. That huge body gathered boundless will of lightning, and it fired a bolt of lightning from its beak. Boundless will of lightning that it had consumed before was quickly turned into 81 beams of lightning, tearing through space in a fearsome manner. The 2 attacks clashed on top of the divine mountain. The resulting flash was so blinding that many struggled to keep their eyes open. All 81 beams of lightning seemed to have turned into 81 thunderbirds, howling through the sky. Yet its opponent remained using only a single sword to retaliate. The sword commanding the clouds tore through the incoming attacks, continuing to move forward at the body of the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird let out a shrilled howl, and its huge body charged forward. Its huge wings brought terrifying flashes of lightning to bear, which were sharper than blades as they lashed out at the person at the peak. Lu Yu snuffed coldly and pointed his finger at the sky. 9 swords materialized, and it seemed that their powers were 9 times greater than before. The 9 divine beams of light rained down and tore through his opponent's attacks, tearing right through the sky and heading straight for the Thunderbird. Boom! A huge rumble was heard, and the sword will penetrated its huge body. Blood spilled, and it crashed into the mountain. Its huge eyes glared at the swords in the sky. The 9 swords remained hanging there instead of raining down. The bird would have probably suffered a worse fate otherwise. Thank you, the Thunderbird said in human speech. Although its opponent injured it, it remained grateful to its opponent for showing mercy. It had to accept that it had lost. Lu Yu's name was known throughout the region, and he indeed lived up to his fame. proving that his powers were supreme. What about you all? Lu Yu looked at those who continued to move up. The ones who were near the peak were Zhu Qi, daughter of the Bamboo Emperor, and Yi Futian. As such, one could assume that he was addressing those two. Zhu Qi's eyes gazed upon Lu Yu, who was in the sky. While she was indeed extremely confident in her powers, the powers of the sword shone before made her realize that she was still unable to take him on. If Lu Yu were to bring his swords down, she did not know how she would have resisted them. Even if she managed to stop them, she would be injured nonetheless. He was attracting lightning bolts with his sword, and Lu Yu became the absolute king in that place for doing so. We shall see how many lightning strikes you can endure, Zhu Qi said. It was apparent that she gave up. She remained where she was entrained. Lu Yu nodded slightly to her. The world would then witness him taking on the lightning bolts soon after, and he would break the record. It was his goal to take on 1,000 lightning strikes. Some power indeed. He seems invincible. Many who were climbing the mountain were in awe. The Thunderbird lost and Zhu Qi gave up. They had all been of the same renown before, and all of them had been very famous. At that moment, however, it was apparent who among them proved superior. Lu Yu was a cut above everyone else, and no one had been able to make him budge. Everyone would have only needed to sit around and witness how many lightning strikes he could endure to see if he would be able to break the record of that insane genius. Lu Yu's expression was calm and composed, getting ready to be struck by the lightning of the great path. However, just when he was about to look away, he found another who continued to move upward, which caused him to frown. He made himself very clear, and had shown mercy, yet there seemed to be someone who refused his kindness still. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.